On January 12, 1765, 3 young boys were herding cattle in a field near the French village of Chenalet, in the area known as Gevaudan. Jacques Portefeuille, the eldest of the boys at just 10 years old, was leading the group as an unnamed 8-year-old strayed too close to the tree line of the dark woods nearby. In a split second, an unknown animal raced past the defenseless cattle and targeted the 8-year-old boy. At first, the boys thought it was a wolf, as many were known to be in the area, but as the animal took down the child, it was clear that it was not. The other 2 boys, led by Jacques, armed with spears, raced to his defense as the animal dragged him into the woods. 2 other boys and 3 girls nearby saw what was happening and raced into the woods to help, but the animal fought for its meal. The children stabbed the animal with spears and beat it with sticks and rocks as it clutched the screaming child in its powerful jaws. As the children bashed its head and stabbed its side, the animal finally relented, released the boy, and disappeared into the swamps of the Gevaudan. Nearby, a villager heard the commotion and entered the woods as the animal ran away. They carried the injured boy back to the village, where he recovered. The villagers were now fed up with the animal. It had been attacking, killing, and maiming people in the area for over a year. They prepared a letter including Jacques' account of the attack, and the small boy sent it to King Louis XV. Upon hearing the story of a 10-year-old boy charging a deadly beast with a spear to save his 8-year-old friend, the media was salivating at the story. As France's economy and foreign affairs were in shambles at the time, and the political stories in the newspapers were censored by the king, the media created a new kind of story. They created short news stories, typically about crime, that would engage readers and sell papers. Now, with this heroic boy fighting off an unknown beast in a remote area of France, the media had a gripping story. However, with the publicity that this story brought, the king's court knew something must be done. It all started a year before, in April 1764, when a woman reported an animal stalking her. She reported that it was wolf-like, which again were common in the area, but also said that it wasn't a wolf. The animal had specifically targeted the woman while leaving the cattle alone. The cattle had charged the animal, scaring it off. As this was the first report, and the woman had reported that it was like a wolf, people generally thought it to be a wolf and dismissed the story. Then, 2 weeks later, on June 30th, Jean Boulet, a 14-year-old sheep herdess, was found in a field with her throat torn out and her hands chewed off. The helpless sheep remained completely unharmed. Little did they know at the time that this scene would become all too familiar, as it would be the calling card of the Beast of Gevaudan. Over the next year, nearly 100 attacks took place in the area that were attributed to the animal. The animal would attack anyone at any time, but particularly targeted women and children, nearly all with the same MO. The animal attacked the head and neck initially, then chewed off extremities. Many of the victims were decapitated or nearly decapitated. The animal was relentless. Some of the victims were able to escape, at least to tell the tale before succumbing to their injuries or later infection. They described a wolf-like creature, but also claimed that the animal was not a wolf. Some also described the animal as dog-like, but not a dog. It had a reddish-gray coat and a long panther-like tail. Its legs were the color of a deer with a black stripe and longer fur down its back, and talon-like claws. It was also described as having a large or oversized head. No one in this area had seen an animal like this before. After the 10-year-old Jacques led a troop of children to attack the beast, the king's court dispatched a military battalion to the Gevaudan. One of the lead hunters was a battle-hardened man, Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel. France had recently experienced several military setbacks. This hunt was a sort of redemption for many of the lead hunters, including Duhamel. In 1765, he arrived with a large amount of publicity. His plan to cover the vast countryside was to use the local hunters. Many of the farmers in the area were not only hunters, but experienced wolf hunters. He believed that his military personnel and the farmers under his leadership could track down the animal and kill it quickly. He called on the locals with a reward from the king. At most, the reward reached approximately 1 year's salary for the local workers. The year's salary for hunting the animal was extremely appealing, bringing in over 20,000 volunteers. Captain Duhamel organized the troops and volunteers across the countryside. They set up ambushes in locations of sightings and set out carcasses as bait. Some of the men even dressed as women or children, as it was known to have an affinity for women and children. But as time passed, the animal was not captured or shot, but the attacks continued. The animal was even starting to gain a supernatural reputation, as some of the farmers returned, stating that they had shot the beast, but the bullets just bounced off of its thick hide. However, on August 11, 1765, the beast proved to be mortal. A woman named Marie-Jeanne Vallée was walking from her home to a nearby farm when the animal attacked from behind. Vallée turned in time to see the animal approaching, ready to attack. Vallée, who knew of the beast, had fashioned a homemade spear out of a pipe by tying a knife to the end. As the animal reared up for an attack, Vallée plunged the knife into the animal's side. The animal shrieked in pain and toppled down the side of the hill into a river below. Vallée ran back home, but the animal was only injured and escaped again. A statue of Vallée wounding the animal stands in the village of Ouvy in southern France. Vallée was given the honorable nickname of the Maiden of Gevaudan. The public was beginning to turn as the military could not kill the beast and the attacks continued. Etienne Lefant, an aristocrat and regional government delegate that traveled to Gevaudan with Duhamel, stated that the animal was much larger than a wolf. It has a snout somewhat like a calf's and very long hair, which would seem to indicate a hyena. Duhamel wrote that it had breasts as wide as a horse, a body as long as a leopard's, and the fur was red with a black stripe. You will undoubtedly think, like I do, that this is a monster, the father of which is a lion. What its mother was remains to be seen. As the military leaders failed to find anything other than admiration, 2 hunters from Norway arrived. Jean-Charles de Innevels claimed to have hunted and killed 1,200 wolves. He arrived with his son to track down and kill the animal. Even with their grand reputation, the de Innevels failed to capture the beast and soon left empty-handed. King Louis XV, fed up, sent his own personal bodyguard, Francois Antoine. He handpicked a group of men to accompany him on the hunt, and it didn't take long. On September 20th, 1765, the group of men cornered a family of wolves. Both of the adult wolves were extremely large, but the male was a giant. The group knew that these animals must be the culprit of the attacks. Antoine opened fire on the male, killing it instantly, while the female and the cubs fled. Some hunters stayed behind and prepared the wolf for preservation, while Antoine and another smaller group went after the mother and the cubs. When it was finished, both the male and the female were killed along with one of the cubs. The large adult male was sent to Versailles, where it was put on display. The king announced that the beast of Gevaudan had been killed, and the reward was paid to Antoine. 2 months later, the killings resumed. The king was not going to let the deaths of poor farmers get in the way of his triumph. He had paid the reward, and as far as he was concerned, the beast was dead. The villagers again were on their own. Over the next 18 months, the attacks continued. Women and children were attacked with heads taken off and their bodies devoured. Between 30 and 35 women and children were killed over the next 18-month period, with most of them coming in early June of 1767. This forced a local nobleman to take up the issue and lead yet another hunting party after the beast. This hunting party included a particular man named Jean Chastel. Jean was an extremely interesting person. He had special bullets to kill the beast. His bullets had been dipped in silver, because, as everyone knows, it takes a silver bullet to kill a werewolf. Jean truly believed that he was hunting a werewolf, and that day, on the slopes of Montmouchet, it just so happens that Jean Chastel came across the animal, put the animal in his sights, and took it down with a single shot of a silver bullet. The animal was then preserved and looked over by many people who came up with their own ideas of what it was, but no one could provide definitive evidence at the time of what the animal actually was. So what was the animal that killed over 100 people in this rural area of France? Please comment below, as an open discussion of the animal species is welcome. The animal was described as wolf-like and dog-like, but not a wolf or a dog. And these were people that knew wolves. They were abundant in the area. The legs and oversized head had short hair that was the color of a deer. It also had a black stripe on its back and talons on its feet. Its behavior was described as an ambush hunter. It stalked its prey and went for the throat when it attacked. The wounds of the victims were concentrated around the head and neck and shoulders. 16 victims were reportedly decapitated. The animal was mostly seen in the evenings and mornings. Let's start with the belief from the man that actually killed the beast, that it was a werewolf. At the time, there was a growing number of people that believed the beast was a supernatural animal or mystical being. Many hunters stated that they had shot the beast and that the bullets simply bounced off of its thick hide. Then Jean Chastel shot and killed the animal with a silver-covered bullet, thus reinforcing their beliefs. So, either an animal that has no evidence of ever actually existing appeared and began killing people in a small town in France, or some farmers with a propensity to exaggerate their marksmanship skills had to go home and tell their wives why they were empty-handed. It is generally believed to be a canine, as the animal was mostly described as being wolf-like or dog-like. However, because of the long panther-like tail and the stalking and hunting characteristics, some believe that it was a lion that had escaped captivity. It has been a relatively low number of people that believe that the animal is a lion, as all accounts of the animal being a canine would have to be dismissed. This would dismiss most, if not all, eyewitness accounts of the animal. However, because the locals could not quite tell what the animal actually was, it is likely that it was not something native to the area. This brings up two other possibilities. Another animal that fits the description extremely well, but is not native to France, would be a hyena. This is also what one of the hunters described. The hyena matches many reported characteristics, including an oversized head, deer color, and even the stripe down its back. Furthermore, the hyena has one of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom and is capable of detaching a human head from the body. Most of the people in the area in the late 1700s would never have seen a hyena and would not have described it as such. They would have simply said something like it was wolf-like or dog-like, which matches the description. However, this is another case of an animal that is not native to the region, so it would have had to escape from captivity. Another possibility is a wolf-dog hybrid, known accordingly as a wolf dog. The wolf dog does not include many of the reported characteristics, such as talon on its feet and a panther-like tail or a stripe down its back. Furthermore, the wolf dog does not match the sizes described. Wolf dogs are typically between the sizes of a wolf and a dog. Therefore, an overgrown animal like the Beast of Gevaudan does not generally match with a wolf dog. It should also be noted, eyewitness accounts are often exaggerated. There was a large population of wolves in the Gevaudan at the time. The high number of attacks, along with the popularity of the stories and the media involvement, may have morphed into the stories of a supernatural animal. With this, the Beast of the Gevaudan may simply have been a larger than normal wolf or a large collection of wolves, making an above normal number of attacks on humans. Sadly, proof of the type of animal will most likely never be known, but the legend of the Beast of the Gevaudan lives on. This is True Mysteries. Please like, leave comments, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.